Morning. My dad likes to make fun of me for answering questions with I don't know. Well, actually, I usually answer with what first because I didn't hear, or admittedly, wasn't really listening. Usually, the conversations go something like this. So, Katie, did you talk to your mom like I asked you to? Sorry, what? Did you talk to your mom? Did you figure out when you'll be free? Oh, I don't know. And his questions usually vary. What's my schedule? When am I free? When and where are my sports games? But my answer's pretty much always, I don't know. It's actually kind of funny when the scenario happens with my mom because she expects me to know the answers to more unusual questions. Like, why does the moon look so big on a particular night? Is it closer? Why? Sorry, Mom, I may have learned the names of the moon phases in the 5th grade, but I don't know the answer to that. And after 4 years of high school, wouldn't you know it, there are still a lot of things that I don't know. I looked at the upperclassmen my freshman year and was like, wow, they look like they've got it all figured out. I'm here to say, nope, not even close. And I'm sorry if that's not reassuring at the moment, to say that someday, sooner than you think, you could be halfway through senior spring and still completely, utterly lost. I did learn a thing or two here at Brooks. Don't worry, Mom and Dad, tuition didn't go to waste. But I really struggled with what to say to you today. I figured if I waited long enough, something would come to me. I know, great plan, Katie. I waited until I could clear my head and really boil down what I wanted to say. But things kept changing, and I watched my school change too. I don't really like change. Honestly, it makes me nervous and apprehensive about how to adapt. Brooks has not stayed static while I've been here, but in fairness, neither have I. However, some changes hit harder than others, and I've finally figured out why that is for me. There are things that I've experienced and times I've enjoyed that the universe aligned to create. Integral people, places, and experiences I've enjoyed. But these moments cannot be recreated, and I'd like to share some of them with you all today. At Brooks, I learned and experienced a lot. Like I said earlier, I don't know a lot of things, but here are some of the things that I can tell you. I now know the best view of Lake Kachikwick is from a cruise shell. My freshman year, which I fondly remember as the pre-tote cruise season, I vividly remember a moment frozen in time on the lake. The boat was motionless in the far left alcove of the lake. We were between drills, and I was lying in the sun with my paddle handle above my head. There was a layer of pollen that made the water seem green, and I was warm. It was early in the season, but it's the only time I remember being warm during crew. Not hot, sweaty from hard work and exertion, but warm. Warm the way only the softness of early spring and gentle air can make you. There's a lot of awkward and embarrassing things I did freshman year that I wish I could forget, and I'll spare you, or rather myself, continued embarrassment from them. But I most vividly remember that warmth. Freshman year was also when I learned the value of a good friend. I'd never really had one before, at least not someone who would stick around after we had fights, and when we were sad or upset or any mood in between. But Caitlin did, and I'm so glad for that. That was also before she was vegan, and she ate most of my Cheez-Its, which I used to bribe her into friendship. So in case any of you were wondering how that happened, that's kind of why we're friends now. Freshman year was tough for a lot of reasons. Adjusting to being away from home for the first time isn't supposed to be easy. But on top of that, my Nana passed away winter term of that year. She was a tough woman. Her honesty was cutting. If she had something to say, she'd tell you. No fluff to make you feel better, just the straight truth. And she's probably where I get my smart mouth from. I'm working on it, but it's still a process. She wasn't an easy person to gain affection from, but I remember one summer night when I was in middle school, she was standing in the kitchen before bed, cigarette in her hand with her laptop open to an online slot machine. She closed the laptop, and I sat on a tall stool across the kitchen island from her. She started talking, a vase of flowers on the island between us, gestured to a closed yellow rose and said, "I've watched you go from this," she paused, "to this," and pointed to a blooming flower. It was a rare moment of affection from her, and I wonder what she would say if she saw me today, because I have grown up so much since then. I know sophomore year is underrated, but it's also not easy. You think you should have the hang of things, but in practice, that's never really the case. One thing I did figure out by then, though, was bring a mini fridge. That was a very important development for me personally and makes it less likely people will steal your pizza rolls. Jess can attest to that one. I remember my 2 most recent years here the most clearly. I know that those you don't expect to be friends with can surprise you. Daria claims she forced her friendship on me at the end of sophomore and beginning of junior years, but I'm not certain that's true. Regardless, I'm thankful. I know that school is important, but it's not always most important. Sometimes you have to play What Do You Mean with your best friends until 2 a.m. because it's more fun. Also, you can only cram for a test so much. At some point, you have to call and get some rest, even if you don't feel ready. I actually took this advice last night. Sorry, Mr. K. I know how important our teachers are and how thankful I am for the adults on this campus. One thing that has taken me 4 years to figure out, that I hope you learn more quickly, is that you need to learn what will make you happy. Both Mr. Hale and Mrs. Davies have stopped me on the way out of classes, on days I'm particularly quiet, which, if you don't know me, is actually kind of unusual. They both looked at me after their respective class and said the same thing in their own words. What would make you happy? When was the last time you had fun? And of course, my answer was, I don't know. Yeah, they kind of called me out, but honestly, I needed that. I've spent a long time thinking about it. What would make me happier right now? What can I do to be happier, have more joy in my life? I've had my share of bad times, and I've cried a lot. You probably haven't seen me crying, which I don't know how, because when I say a lot, I genuinely mean it. And I cried about everything you'd expect a teenage girl to cry about. Grades, friends, boys, life in general. And I've cried in a lot of places here. In my room, Mr. Hale's classroom, Mrs. H's classroom, Mr. Hussey's classroom, the Merriman's second floor bathroom, the bathroom by the portico, the library, the downstairs library bathroom. You get the picture. I believe Mr. Hale described me to my mother my freshman year as, and I quote, a bit of a mess. And he was right. And I kind of still am. Aren't we all? Even just a little bit? I almost feel like a fraud, up here telling you to be happy when I've been struggling with it myself for so long. This fall was particularly hard on me, which can be simplified to the college application process and the stress that bears down on me when, in reality, I'm the only one putting pressure on myself. And my mom's seen my breakdowns. The anxiousness, lack of appetite, exhaustion. Most times when she asks me how I am, I can only reply with, tired. Tired has become the norm for me at these times. Like I could sleep for the rest of the semester and still be tired. The monotony is draining, and I can't even force myself to care about school, but then I stress about failing, and the cycle continues. I do what I have to do here, get my work done, spend hours studying and admittedly crying in the library, but being happy, it's always been coincidental. It happens when it happens, but I'm not actively seeking happiness, and that makes me feel boxed in. I'm not sure how familiar you all are with astrology, but I'm a Sagittarius, which means I value freedom and enjoy traveling. This never felt like it fit me because I like predictability and structure. But recently, I've been going crazy over how caged I feel. But the Italy trip changed that. I guess I'm a true Sagittarius now because I can't wait to keep traveling, exploring, and learning about different places and cultures. The trip was truly one of the best experiences I have had, not only at Brooks, but in general. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Graham for making it possible, and thank you to our whole group. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to share the experience with. I want to change my view on happy, but there are so many things that seem to be in the way. I know I'm happy driving through Michigan backroads in the July heat with the windows down, even though the car has air conditioning, but it doesn't have an aux cord, so I switch between the radio stations. It's loud, and there's a bag of peppermints in my shotgun seat because they're Primo's favorite treat. Another thing you may or may not know about me is I'm probably, almost definitely, the horse girl in my grade. I've always hated this title because it comes with the adjective weird, and that brings me back to my middle school days of feeling awkward and lame. Anyway, being at the barn does make me happy. I won't go on too long about it, but I would like to share why I enjoy it. Sometimes it makes me anxious. I get scared of getting hurt. I've heard all the horror stories, but it just comes with the territory. I've fallen off several times before, and of course, I immediately got back on. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. If I didn't get back on immediately, I would only become more frightened about the next time I rode. So I get back on, even when that means I go crying into the show ring because I fell off 5 minutes before my time to compete. I know I have great timing. Falling off and not getting back on is defeat. It would destroy the good memories I've had and the ones yet to come. It would mean the end of my car rides to the barn, my trainer Alex whooping with joy over an impressive jump I just did, and the time I spend not worrying about anything. Just being in the moment and enjoying the freedom. I know I'm happy, sitting on my desk chair backwards so I can face Caitlin and Daria in my room. It's probably a school night, but it's already late, and whatever we're laughing or crying about is more important than sleep anyway. I know I'm happy, staying at dinner for as long as possible and catching up with people I don't see during the day that often. Amelina and Katie and Sho talking about the musical. Always entertaining Naima with something new and unexpected to add to the conversation. I know I'm happy when Silva and Sarah and I all come together to study. I mean, I may still fail the test, but that's one hell of a study group. I know I'm happy on Tuesday when I go to Peabody for physics help. I'm not happy about the physics, but sometimes Mr. Hussey brings munchkins, despite the fact that it's pretty much just the two of us, and occasionally a freshman Peabody boy who's late for 8 o'clock check-in. But Mr. Hussey is like really into physics and is always happy to answer my countless questions. I know I'm happy when Mrs. McCampbell pulls out her little Latin fun fact book at the beginning of a class. When my English class goes to lunch together. That one time when Mr. Hale got a whole busette to just take me and Caitlin to Perfectos during the second half of an advisory period. When Bizzle walks by me in the dining hall and exclaims, "KW, what is up?" Marty, unicycling down Main Street because how else would you get down Main Street? Daria's outrageous story of the day. When you make eye contact with someone in class and can tell they have no idea what's going on either. What can I say? Misery loves company. These happy moments just happen. I didn't plan on them. Despite me not being active in what will make me happy, these moments always brighten my day. And without them, well, I can say one time I cried because there weren't breakfast sandwiches on a Tuesday morning. Granted, I had other things going on that I was upset about, but those breakfast sandwiches are so good. So, as I look towards graduation, and I'm caught between wanting it right now and never wanting to leave, depending on the time of day, I'm trying to pick a path that will make me happy. I know what has made me happy here, and I know I'll have new moments like those, but those moments will never happen again. Your experience here is not the same as mine. It can't be. So much has changed since I stepped onto this campus on the hottest day in September, because move-in day is always on the hottest day in September. Some things never change. But the people who have defined my experience, the mighty class of 2019, are leaving too. And what we take and leave behind are these moments. Seek them out. So I still don't know a lot, and it's no secret I'm trying to figure things out, but I learned a lot about myself at Brooks, and not only some of the things that make me happy, but how important they are, and finding something I'm passionate about in the future. Like Mr. Hale and Mrs. Davies asked me, I pose to you the same question. What will make you happy right now? If, like me, you don't know, start thinking about it. Thank you.